In this video, I'm going to define wealth for you in 5 easy steps, and we're going to use an acronym for TOOL so that you can understand how money and wealth is more like a tool in your toolbox than a fancy car or an expensive house. And by the end of this video, you can avoid the money traps that most people fall into so that you can build a life that is empowered by money and not hurt by it. Okay, so let's walk through what wealth is in these 5 easy steps. And you'll notice that I call it a game because I think that's really important that you start to get your mindset around. So think about money as a game where you need to understand what the rules of the game are in order to compete. So if you were going to go play football or run a marathon or take a yoga class or choose your hobby or sport of choice, it's really important that you understand the rules and what the game is that you're playing so that you can be effective in the game. And that's what we're going to describe here. Okay, so let me start with the definitions of money and wealth that are actually wealth destroying. And these are the traditional definitions that I could find online. And the first is just that money is a way to exchange for goods and services. And wealth is just an accumulation of valuable possessions. And the reason that these are bad definitions is that it only focuses on you purchasing something. And the problem with that is that most things that you purchase actually don't generate any form of wealth for you at all. In fact, typically purchases just lose their value. And so what people learn from these definitions is just to spend on things that they want to buy and really don't focus on things that they could prioritize that actually empower their finances. So let's actually take these definitions and change them so that you can understand the rules of the game for wealth building and you know what to aim at. Now let me give you the 3 levels of wealth as I define them. And I'm going to do it in 3 stages because wealth can be kind of a complicated idea. I want to describe wealth physically for you first, but then go a couple levels deeper so that you can understand how wealth impacts both your physical, your mental, your emotional, and then at a much deeper level, a broader vision for your life and what wealth has to do with that at all. Okay, so the first physical definition of wealth is that money is exchanged to purchase assets which hold value and grow in value over time. So examples of this might be stock investments that you have, a bond that you purchase that provides you income, or a real estate investment that provides some type of appreciation on the value of the property or rental income, or really any other thing that you can buy and exchange your money for that helps give you money back. And then at this physical level, wealth is just the accumulation of all of these assets. So you can think about them all growing over time, generating money on their own, that really is kind of like an army that fights for you. And it fights for you by generating money that you can use for the things that are most interesting and purposeful for you in your life. So let's go one level deeper on a definition of wealth. And I want you to think about this like an iceberg. So the physical definitions of wealth that I just gave you are at the tip of the iceberg. But what sits underneath the water is much more impactful for you in your life. And they're the things that I really like to focus on outside of just physical definitions of wealth. And I think that's what really inspires people to become wealth builders is that they find something that means more to them than just the physical definition. They're emotionally attached, they're mentally attached, they understand the mindset around wealth that really is valuable to them, that allows them to make the tough trade-off decisions to start building wealth versus just spending on the next thing that they want to purchase, which can be challenging. So let me give you the second definition. So at this deeper level, at an emotional level, money represents your life's energy that you exchange when you work. So in my first video, I kind of talked about this. If you spend an hour at work, you can kind of look at how much of my life's energy do I exchange for a minute of my time when I'm at work. And so what that does is it actually looks at how money should be honored by the exchanges that you make. And that connects to money and wealth, the physical definitions of wealth, because when you purchase an asset that grows over time, you're honoring your time exchange. You're not wasting it on something that loses value. And so that's money. And then wealth, you can start to think about, and I'll bring back my tool analogy, you can start to think about wealth as a tool that empowers the most important parts of your life because it's not focused on just buying something. It's focused on how can I use money to empower the things that are most important to me. And so now I'll go one level deeper into a level 3 definition of wealth that really helps start to transform how you see it so that you get inspired to build it. Because at the deepest level, what wealth does is it puts money to work for you to support the most important areas of your life. And it does this in 4 ways. So this is the tool acronym. The first one is T for time. So we've talked about time a little bit being an exchange for your money at work. But at a deeper level, what wealth does is it allows you the time to focus on whatever it is important to you. And wealth does that by generating money on its own so that you don't have to work for it. And the beautiful thing about this is not that you just stop working, but you can work on whatever it is that's interesting to you. So whether it's working at a nonprofit, maybe at a lower salary than you would need if you were kind of hooked on money, or not working at all, or maybe staying at home with kids if you have a family and that's what really calls to you. You have the time to go explore whatever it is that's important to you. So that's the first part. The second part is options. So when you have wealth and you've accumulated wealth that is physically generating money for you, you have the options to go do whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's exploring a new career path, quitting a job that's toxic or not meaningful for you, or not working at all. You have options to explore different paths that most people never get the opportunity to do because they're stuck in some type of financial obligation that keeps them having to make money. So for example, that rich person that makes $1 million a year, has an expensive home that they're paying on and all of these cars, the moment they stop working or they lose their job, all of those things go away. And that's what most people do. They live paycheck to paycheck, so they never have options in their life. They're kind of boxed into a corner because the financial obligations that they have are not generating any money for them. In fact, it's just taking all of their money away. The third one is ownership. So ownership, we've talked a little bit of physical assets. So wealth is purchasing things that grow over time. But also think about the more important part is that you have ownership and control over your life. At the highest levels of financial empowerment, I kind of joke, you hear FU money, but you have no thank you money. You have money that says, no, I don't think I'm going to do that, because you have ownership over your financial situation. And again, that most people never get that opportunity. Lastly, all of those things come together to support a life's vision. And we're going to make another video on kind of envisioning what this is for you. But it's really important that you direct your energy towards something that is empowering for you over the long term, because wealth building is hard. You're having to save money every month, maybe every week, for a long period of time. And we'll kind of get into what that looks like in a little bit here. But you need something that inspires you to want to do that. And so your life's vision could be something like, hey, I want to focus on being a parent. I mentioned maybe you want to stay home and not work. Well, if you have wealth that's generating money for you, that becomes a lot easier. Maybe you want to focus on traveling and the kind of physical experiences in life. Well, if you don't have to work, or you have some of your work subsidized with wealth, you can go travel the world or go see new things. Maybe you want to jump into a different career path that's really inspiring to you. You can go explore a new career path. All of these things are different life's visions that you can have when wealth is empowering you and you're not using money against yourself by wasting it on things that lose value. That's the level 3 definition of wealth, the deep meaning that wealth is a tool that can empower your life's vision. But how does wealth actually do that? So this is a really critical thing to understand is how it works. And the reason that most people don't build wealth or don't think that they can build wealth is because they don't understand these two things. The first is compound interest. And it's not a very exciting phrase, but I want you to understand that for normal people, compound interest allows you to become wealthy no matter really how much money you make, as long as you have enough time to start saving and investing. So think about compound interest like you're planting a seed in the ground that turns into a giant oak tree. And it's that little seed that does it all. Or another analogy you might hear is like a snowball rolling down a hill. So a small amount of snow rolling down a really snowy mountain turns into this giant boulder. Well, compound interest for your money is the same thing. So, what compound interest does is that money typically doubles every 7 to 10 years. And I'm not going to get heavy into the math. I'll make some assumptions here. What's really important is not so much the specific financial detail that goes behind how it works, but more understand the principle of it so that it inspires you to get started. Let me walk you through an example of compound interest in action. And what you see on your screen is an example of someone putting in $100 a month into an investment that earns an annual 10% interest rate. And what you'll see is that over 10, 20, 30, and 40 years, that $100 a month turns into an extraordinary amount of wealth. So even at 10 years, you can see that it's earned about $20,000. The interesting thing is you also see 8,655. That's the amount of interest that's been earned. And you can think about interest as the money that's been grown by itself. So this is your money working for you. So principal in orange is actually the money that you put into the investment account. So now watch it over 20, 30, 40 years. What you'll see is that interest starts to take off, and that's compound interest at play. So every 7 to 10 years, the money's doubling. And so what you can see is that this $100 a month that someone's putting in, while it's relatively small overall, over a long period of time, it actually grows on its own. And this is the incredible thing that allows normal people like you and me to be able to build wealth. And most people don't understand that this is even possible, or really understanding that time is really their ally if they get started early. It allows people to save a little bit of money and then have your money work for you. Incredibly, after 40 years in this example, they would have saved over $600,000. And nearly all of that money would have been interest that was earned on the small amount of principal or their monthly contributions. And this is really what enables wealth for anyone. It just takes the prioritization of doing this diligently over a long period of time. And I know the challenge is at 18, I wasn't thinking about compound interest or what I would be doing in 40 years. But I will tell you that if you can find inspiration around this life's vision. Maybe you're 18 years old and you say, hey, by the time I'm 40, I want to be doing this. And you can pick anything that you find inspiring. 40 from 18 years old, that's 22 years. So you can kind of look at this example. Well, if you put in $100 a month at 40 years old, you would have just around $80,000. Well, that's money that continues to grow on its own and can empower the life that you want. Let's do another example. So I like this example because it kind of outlines how someone that is slow and saves a small amount but does it consistently over time can really beat out people that start saving late that might make a larger salary. So in this example, I chose two hypothetical people, Amy and Ben. So Amy decides that she's going to start saving $83 a month at 18 years old. And $83 a month is about $1,000 a year. So she says, look, I'm going to, whatever it takes, I'm going to save $83 a month and I'm going to invest it. Ben isn't really ever focused on saving and investing or building wealth or his life's vision or anything. He's just focused on earning money and then spending it. And he doesn't really start to think about building wealth until he's about 40 years old. By the time he's 40, he can save $5,000 a year. He has a higher salary than maybe Amy is earning at 18 years old, doing what most 18 years old people are doing, which is probably working a minimum wage job. But what's interesting is that you can see compound interest in action because Amy started saving so much earlier than Ben. Her money is growing from the time she's 18 years old all the way up to 40 when Ben starts. And you can see is that by the time they each hit 60 years old, Amy's still ahead of Ben, even though Ben is saving $5,000 a year. And the reason is because compound interest has been working for her that whole time. And so time can be a great ally for you if you get started early. And then if you get started later, your compound interest isn't working for you as much. So you have to be able to save more. So that's the really important piece, is that compound interest either works for you or against you depending on how much time you have. So the push here is to really start saving and investing as early as you can. That's the first magical property of wealth building, is that normal people like you and me who save a little bit of money every month consistently for a long period of time can beat out people that make a much higher salary. So if you don't earn a lot of money now, it doesn't mean that you won't as you grow your skills in a career. But if you get started even with a small amount and you do it consistently over time, it can grow into some pretty spectacular amount of money if you're consistent with it. And so that's really the key thing here, is that you have to have a vision for your life that inspires you to want to build wealth, that says, hey, I can use wealth as a tool if I do this. So that's the first bit. The second bit is that money is kind of like a continual harvest. And what I mean by that is, think about like a farmer every single year. You know, they're planting into the ground, and every year they're able to harvest their crop, but they leave the soil healthy enough that they can continue to, make crops the following year. So your money is kind of like that as well. So as you save enough money, what you can start doing, and this is called the 4% rule, which you'll hear people talk about pretty consistently. What it says is a study done. You can look up the study. It's called the Trinity study. It looked at people that were retired, and it said that if you take or use 4% of your money every year, that money is not going to run out after 30 years. And so for people like you and me that are interested in building wealth, the spectacular thing about this and what it's telling you is that if you can learn to live off 4% of whatever your savings are over a long period of time, you could pretty much live on that money forever. Now, the study looked at 30-year retirement, so the math gets a little bit more tricky if you're looking at a retirement, say 40, 50, or 60 years long, depending on how quickly you want to kind of get out of the rat race and stop working if you want to live off of your wealth. Not really important. The important thing is that your money can support you over a long period of time all on its own. And that gets back to that level 3 definition of wealth, where we're talking about supporting a life's vision. So if you have a certain amount of money that is saved and invested and growing, and it's providing you money back, and it provides you 4% of whatever that is, for you to be able to go do something else. So you don't need a job because it's providing you enough income that you can live off of every month. Or even if it doesn't provide enough income to completely replace your salary, maybe you don't need to work at a stressful job, because you can go take a lower paying job because your investment and your wealth is giving you some money on the side. The important thing is that this can continually support you. And so between compound interest growing your money as you accumulate it, even with a small amount of money every month, and then when you have enough money, it's supporting you at a 4% rate pretty much forever. You can change the rate a little bit lower to make it last much longer. You kind of have this perpetual machine that's supporting you. And so these are the two magical properties of wealth that most people don't really understand. And the reason, because they don't understand it, they don't really see the power of money and how it can be used as a tool for you in your life. So that gets into the definition of wealth and a long view of how money over time grows into some pretty spectacular numbers that can support your life's vision. What I don't want you to lose sight of is a lot of the short-term results that come from wealth building, even before you get to a place of financial empowerment that would let you fully quit a job or even dream of just living off of the money that you save. Because I know, especially when you get started, that can feel so far away. Really, what I want you to focus on is how do you be content from day to day, so that when you start saving money and you're building wealth and you're kind of on this ultra marathon that takes a long time, it's a long race, you can kind of enjoy the ride. And so here's some of the the different things that come up on the path that I experienced and that anyone that starts building wealth will experience. The first is leaving to paycheck living behind. This is a huge thing when you don't have to worry about, rents due on the first. Do you have enough money in your account? And you have enough money that, let's say, you just have a month's worth of savings saved and built so that you're not stressing bills every month. You just create, going back to our tool analogy, you create the time and the options and the space that you can start to have a little bit of breathing room. So that's one part on the path. The other part on the path is just saying goodbye to debt. So as you learn to start prioritizing wealth building as this tool for your life, what you have to do is start to deprioritize spending money on, things that kind of take you off of that path. And so what's going to happen is you're still going to start to spend less money on things. You're going to start to see that, hey, debt is really harming me. It's a bad exchange of my life's energy. And I could be spending money on something that actually is giving me money into the future. And as you start to save and invest money, you're going to start to find more money that allows you to pay off debt. And so imagine saying goodbye to debt. If you're in debt right now, I relate. I was heavily in debt when I first started on this path. When you don't have any more debt and you're just debt-free living and all of the money that you make goes directly into savings and investing and you have enough money left over to cover your bills, it's just a wonderful place to be. And it reduces the stress, reduces money anxiety. It makes you feel more empowered. Space to pursue interests. So let's say you're really in a bad job, but you're staying at your job because you have, financial obligations that you can't just quit. So as you go down this path, even if you're not at your full wealth building number yet, you can start to explore alternative paths. So maybe it's leaving one job for another, even in the same career trajectory, but you just have space to be able to go explore those interests. I already mentioned ownership as part of the wealth building description, but you start to own assets that work for you. And this is a really cool thing. So even while you're earning a salary, your investments are growing on their own. So whether it's an investment property that might be providing a rental income, or it's a bond that's paying you money every month, or it's a stock that's been appreciating and growing in value, what you'll start to see is that these assets that you have can start to gain more money than you can even make in a year. And this is a pretty amazing place where, your salary is no longer the major contribution of your wealth generation. And that might not make a lot of sense to someone that's just starting on this path. I can understand why it might seem far-fetched. But, if you're go back to some of the compound interest examples we just did, where you're investing $100 a month. Well, after 30 years, the money is generating more money through interest than you can ever contribute with your $100 a month contribution. And so that's the example of the ownership of assets working for you, which is a beautiful thing. And the last thing that I want to point out is that, this isn't just about not ever spending money. You can empower your purchases and have guilt-free purchases as you build wealth, because you can really prioritize the purchases that you really want to make. So you can reward yourself, if you're diligently saving money every month and you're seeing your investment accounts grow, making some room for yourself to really celebrate the wins that you have and have guilt-free purchasing is another beautiful thing. If you were like me, where I started, I had a lot of toxic associations with making purchases because, if I was in debt and I made a purchase and now I'm in more debt, I'm feeling bad about that. Or maybe I'm out of debt and I finally started to save some money and now I don't want to spend any money or make any purchases at all. The point is that you can build contentment with your life and you can feel more empowerment where you're headed with your vision, but even on the day-to-day. And those are just some of there's literally endless examples of wealth empowering your life on this path as you're working. So you're building more time flexibility, you're giving yourself more options, your ownership, both of assets and just control over your life is growing, and you're headed towards that life's vision. And so hopefully that's enough to inspire you to want to build wealth. Because I think the last thing that I want to call out is why most people fail. And the three things I want to call out around why people fail, the first one is earning more money is not the key to freedom. And so I think a lot of people believe that, maybe if they earn $200,000, $300,000, you pick the number, that they'll finally earn enough money to kind of get them out of the rat race. And while earning more money is helpful for building wealth, and you do need to earn a certain amount of money that allows you to save and invest. I won't lie to say, if you're working a minimum wage job and, you're barely able to meet ends meet, and you're barely able to save, yes, I mean, you do need to be able to grow your skills into a career that earns you a decent wage that allows you to save. But I think what people get confused about is they believe that earning more and more is the key to it all. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. And it's not sufficient because if you never learn to curb kind of your greed and desire and need for more stuff, every time you get a raise, that money's just going to be spent on fancier things. You'll find more stuff to buy. And trust me, as someone whose salary did grow quite well throughout my career, I saw colleagues who, then they get a promotion and the next thing they're driving is a Mercedes G-Wagon. They instantly find ways to spend money. And going back to our wealth definition, going back to the bad definition of money, where it's simply a way to exchange something for goods, as you make more money with that definition, you're just going to find ways to exchange it for more stuff, and you'll never build wealth. The other challenge with it is, and this is the second bullet, is overcoming greed to build wealth. I know it might sound a little counterintuitive that we talk about not being greedy while also talking about making money. Here's the thing, is that wealth building is really learning how to have enough. And what I mean by that is envision a life's vision that tells you that you have enough. And that's going to be different from person to person, but maybe that's $3,000 a month to support a house. You have a paid off car and some basic living expenses, and you just want to spend time with your family. And you're not trying to always kind of level up your expenses. As soon as you learn kind of what enough is for you, it gives you a target to set out to focus on, to build towards. The problem is that if you never learn what enough is for you, your wealth is never going to be able to fully support you because your need is going to continually be growing. In fact, a quote that has really stuck with me from Gandhi, actually, he says, "The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed." And the important thing there is that if you learn what you need and you kind of put everything else aside, what really makes you happy, what brings you satisfaction, what gives you contentment, you'll start to find that there's a lot of extra stuff that you don't actually need. And maybe don't label it as greed. Maybe it's just a want. You can kind of start to really analyze that and say, is that something that's really bringing me the purpose in my life that I want? The point is that you do have to be able to kind of get off of the rat race, or what I call the hamster wheel of purchasing, that tells you always need to buy more, because there's no amount of earning that will ever keep up with that. That's where you see billionaires that they never have enough money. They always want more. It happens at every single income level. There's always a higher level for you to attain. And so if you're really just focused on how do I have more all the time, it actually sidetracks you on this mission to learn how to have enough and how to build wealth. And even if you can't do that, it harms wealth, because then you're going to buy stuff that doesn't create value for you, and it's not creating wealth by purchasing assets that actually do something for you. And then I think the last thing why people fail is, we'll talk about this in future videos, but wealth building is like an ultra marathon. And what does that mean? It means every single day we're learning how to save and invest money. It means that we're having to spend less money. And we're having to learn how to find daily contentment in our life outside of just spending. And if you can learn how to do this and you can be happy in the moment and you can find contentment, suddenly saving and investing money becomes a lot easier because you'll find that a large part of your salary isn't needing to be spent on anything because you're content. That's again, it's a different thing at different income levels. Some people may need to spend nearly 100% of their income just to support their needs. Although I will have videos out in the future that even looks at like your housing expense and things that you might assume are mandatory expenses. Like how can you lower those? That's a big part of wealth building, is trying to find the best value in things. And so we'll talk about that. I think the other bit about it is just on the marathon example, is people get off the path because it is a long race and they get tired. So if you're finding yourself during this wealth building stage, feeling exhausted from trying to save and invest money. I see questions on forums all the time, like, how long do I have to keep saving money for? Can I slow down? That's where we need to really get specific about what your life's vision is. What is wealth doing for you? What are we trying to have this tool do for you? Don't think about it as a goal. Think about it as much larger than that. Is like, where are we headed with your money, and how much do you actually need to be saving every month? Do you need to be saving as aggressively as you are, or maybe you're not saving aggressively at all, and you actually need to be saving more. And then you kind of need to look at, well, what's really important to you? What's important is that you don't lose sight of your day-to-day short-term wins. So you're trying to find contentment and joy in your day-to-day existence while having this long view of your money. And we talked about some financial empowerment opportunities in the short term that you're going to have on the path as you start building wealth. Leaving paycheck to paycheck living behind, saying goodbye to debt, having more options around your job situation, owning assets that start generating money for you even when you are working. And then finally, we talked about why most people fail. And the biggest thing is that they think that they need to earn this massive amount of money to be able to build wealth, or that they can't get started now, or they allow greed, this bottomless pit of like desire for more stuff, overwhelm their ability to prioritize wealth building. And if you can kind of curb those things and kind of get into the mindset of, I'm in this ultra marathon, I'm doing my day-to-day workout, and you have a why behind what you're doing with your life's vision, those are really the key ingredients to success. And why I wanted to start this video is kind of the foundational element for everything else that we're going to talk about. Because if you can get a strong why for your life's vision and you understand how wealth is going to empower it, it's going to help inspire you on your day-to-day existence. And that's what I really want to help drive for you. So I hope this video was helpful. So the next video that we're going to focus on is how to find your wealth number. And this is the number that you think you need to work towards to kind of hit your level of financial empowerment. And I actually already have a free tool. I just need to make the video for it that kind of walks you through how to do that with your life's vision, plus what that actually means financially, so that you can feel inspired on your day-to-day to work towards that number. So I hope you like the video, and if you like these videos, that you'll subscribe for more, and I can't wait to bring you the next one. Thanks. Bye.